HMO management, licensing and planning is becoming more and more complex all the time. And as a landlord who wants to do HMO or is doing HMO, you need to understand all of the regulations. The regulations come under the HMO management regulations. There's the licensing regulations as well, along with all the landlord and tenant legislation that you need to comply with, and the general permitted development order, which allows you to change properties simply from a residential house to a HMO. But whilst doing that, you must also comply with building regulations. And in certain areas, you're going to need to comply with planning because they may have a restriction on the permitted development rights that you have. So it's essential that you understand how to do this because the consequences are enforcement action. You also need to make sure that you are compliant with the Housing Act and you're giving the right agreements and tenancies to people. So that's the Housing Act 1988, where the assured short-haul tenancy was created under the law. And you must make sure that you're following all the procedures, such as the protection of the deposit, giving them the how to rent guide. But in addition to that, there are all the HMO management regulations that the local housing authority is there to enforce. They're not an advising organisation. They are an organisation that is there to enforce the law as it is. What I say and what I share with people is not generally just my opinion. It's generally what the law says and what is required. And on a daily basis, as someone who assists landlords when they get into trouble and assists letting agents who make errors, and we all do, the role of Landlord Licensing and Defence is to work with others in order to defend them when they make mistakes, to educate them to do better, and to guide them in what they need to do so that they get things right on a daily basis and they put in the systems and processes that are robust enough to ensure that when they are working and they are doing their job of HMO management, whether they do that directly or they use an agent who acts for and on their behalf and in their name, that they are understanding why it's important and the consequences of non-compliance. And that non-compliance could be as simple as not having a notice up in the hallway that says who is managing the property. So be very, very clear that you know what's going on so that you don't end up with tens of thousands of pounds of fines that you don't want.